Good morning, my name is Barbara and this is my second official YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about my miscarriage story and just the way everything unfortunately did not work out with that baby. So let's just jump right into it, get into it right away. So the first thing that you're going to need to know is that I have been off birth control for about a little over a year, and we've been using the rhythm method and have been really successful with that. In January, we decided to kind of try to have a baby. I knew I was ovulating. We just decided to try to do it for any reason because we weren't really sure if we could have kids. I have never been pregnant. I'm almost 28 years old. He's never gotten anyone pregnant. He's almost 31 years old. So we had already kind of had it set in our minds that we weren't able to have kids. So whenever we found out we were pregnant, big surprise, obviously. February 1st was the day that I found out, and I woke up that morning, decided to take a test. I wasn't late for my period, nothing like that. I just decided to take one because I knew that there was a possibility of pregnancy. So took a test, and I remember seeing the two lines, and I could feel the blood rush up to my face, and like my heart started beating kind of fast. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I'm never going to see this baby. And I remember also thinking, why are you being so negative? There's no reason to feel like this. Like, you're young, you're healthy. There's no reason to feel like this. But I just remember thinking that something wasn't right from that very moment. So I went and I told Ethan. We told all of our family that first day that we found out. Everyone was very, very excited. And I remember being like, why is everyone so excited? You know, it's only the first trimester and things happen and this and that, which I do know that a lot of people have those kinds of thoughts, but that's not really in my nature to have thoughts like that. I'm a pretty positive person. I don't really think negative things, and for me to think something like that is very telling. Then, like I said, I just kept telling myself, you're not going to meet this baby. I couldn't picture myself with this baby for some reason, and I don't know, well, now we know why, but I remember like going through all of the motions of excitement, but on the inside just feeling so just wrong. And that continued throughout the month. February 1st, I found out I was pregnant. By February 28th, I was completely miscarried and not pregnant anymore. So found out February 1st. That first week was great. I was pregnant and I was starting to feel calmer and, you know, like, okay, this is actually something that's happening. I can't believe this, and really coming to terms with it. I felt pregnant, and it was nice. I really enjoyed that first week. So the second week was not quite as enjoyable. I remember having a lot of left-sided pain, and I thought that I had an ectopic pregnancy. Basically, from that second week that I had found out until the end, I kept having left-sided pain, and I thought maybe it was from my hip. I just didn't know exactly what it could have been from. It wasn't like sharp pain, and I just felt like something wasn't right down there. So, you know, I'm talking to people about it. They're like, everything's fine, you know, pregnancy hormones make you crazy. And then I thought to myself, and you know, maybe it's just I've never done this before. My body's never done this before. It could be anything. It could be anything, you know. It could be me being crazy. It could be that my body doesn't know like what it's feeling, you know, whatever. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's probably just me just getting used to being pregnant. It's okay. It's your first trimester. I hear the first trimester sucks. So just remain positive thoughts, lots of prayers. And it wasn't until it was the 2 Tuesdays after I had found out I was pregnant. I'm pretty sure it was 2 Tuesdays. It might have just been 1 Tuesday. And I was in a class and I got a very sharp left-sided pain. And I was like, my tube just burst. That's what I thought, that my tube had just burst. So I told my boyfriend, he was home at the time, and I was like, I'm going to the emergency department because I had a really bad left-sided pain. So we go to the emergency department. I'm keeping it together. I'm like, okay, just praying to God, just, trying to maintain. And I get in there and they take me back, and like, I just start bawling, crying, because I knew something wasn't right. And it wasn't that the people made me, like the emergency department made me feel crazy. Nobody made me feel like I was overthinking or causing this or anything like that. It was just that I just knew that something was wrong. So I'm in the emergency department. Everyone was very, very nice, super helpful, very, very calming, very professional. That's when they did a vaginal ultrasound, and they also drew my HCG levels. So my HCG was 4,000, which is within normal. HCG levels, as long as it's doubling, that's really the main thing, but it is within normal limits. At that time, I should have been 6 weeks pregnant. I should have been over 6 weeks pregnant. And so that was fine. That was the first news. I was like, okay, great, HCG, perfect. Then they tell me that I'm measuring 5 weeks, which was concerning, but I thought, sometimes implantation takes longer, going down the tube takes longer. I knew that it wasn't that I had ovulated later, because I knew whenever I had gotten pregnant. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'm not going to freak out about that. They said that they had seen the yolk sac. No, they said that they had seen the fetal pole in my uterus, which was positive. I was like, okay, good. That means fetal pole, no ectopic, everything's all good. So took a deep breath, came home, felt so much better, and just was able to relax that night, and was like, okay, you really are just being crazy. You are causing this. Like, just freaking calm down. It's not a big deal, just relax. And of course, throughout all of this stuff that's going on, throughout me feeling like something's wrong, feeling like I have an ectopic pregnancy, feeling all these pains and cramps and all this stuff, my family's going through this entire thing with me, and they're, just trying to keep me calm and being understanding. They went through the highs and the lows with me the entire time. So I get home, I'm feeling great. I'm like, good. So then that same day, that afternoon, I go to the bathroom and there's a little bit of red spotting. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So I'm pretty sure it's just because sometimes the vaginal ultrasound can irritate your cervix and make you have a little bit of spotting, but it's not coming from your uterus, it's coming from your cervix. So I'm like, okay, good. But after that ultrasound, that entire week until I had my miscarriage, I started having brown spotting. And I'm not saying it's because of the ultrasound, obviously. I think that that first initial sharp left-sided pain was the first time that my body was really trying to miscarry. So anyways, I have that red spotting and I'm like, damn it, but it was only red that one time. And so I'm like, okay, good, that's fine. And then I continued to have the brown spotting, but I'm like, okay, you know what? Could just be because my cervix was irritated, no big deal. They said everything was fine. They said everything was all good. So don't freak out. So the next day I get a call from the follow-up OB, who they basically put me in this, in the system. And so a follow-up OB was just going to call me just to make sure that everything was okay, and just follow up with me. So the follow-up OB calls me, and she basically tells me that they didn't see a yolk sac during the ultrasound, which was very concerning to me, because how can you have a fetal pole without a yolk sac when at that stage in pregnancy the fetal pole essentially is the yolk sac? And I didn't ask anything about it because I was just kind of caught off guard and I didn't really think about it until later. So she decides to order a follow-up HCG test the next day within 48 hours. Well, actually 48 hours, a little bit over 48 hours later. So, the next day I go in, I get my blood drawn, and like, honestly, after she had told me that they didn't see a yolk sac, I was freaking out that entire day. And the next day, it was just horrible. It's literally torture whenever you feel like something's wrong. Something's wrong with your baby, and people just aren't giving you straight answers, giving you straight answers and then giving you consistent answers. Like, everyone that I talked to was saying different things. And so I'm still having the brown spotting. I'm still just feeling like something isn't right. Like, I'm just feeling like something isn't right. And so I do this follow-up HCG draw. She calls me back that same day with the results, and it was about 8:30 at night. And I'm on my way home from work, and she tells me that my levels aren't rising as much as they should be. She said that they should be rising at least 40%, and they're rising just under 40%. So she tells me she does tell me that I can start miscarrying at any time, goes over the miscarry precautions with me, and just says, I want to do another draw in 2 days to see if they continue to increase by 40%, if they start plateauing, if they, start dropping. And so I'm, again, freaking out because my levels aren't rising as they should be. At this point, I'm just like confused. I don't know what to think. I'm praying and hoping that everything's okay. I'm doing nothing but praying at this point. So I talked to my mom, I talked to my family, I talked to, Ethan, and we decided to just not do the blood draw again and just kind of let things happen the way that they will. Because a week from the day that I found out that my HCG was only rising 40%, I had an OB appointment. Because a week from that day, I was going to have my first ultrasound, my official first ultrasound, my official first, OB appointment. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wait. By the time I go to my first official OB appointment, I will be 8 weeks or should be 8 weeks. And we will know. By then we will know if there's baby growth, if there's a heartbeat, if anything's wrong, we will know by next week. So we decided to just, positive thoughts. I'm remaining positive. I'm just praying, I'm meditating, just doing everything that I can to keep my body healthy, to keep my mind healthy, to decrease stress, and just, not create a bad environment for this baby. So time goes on. And I believe it was on Tuesday night, that following Tuesday. Everything happened on a Tuesday. So that Tuesday, I had that day off. And all day, I just felt yucky down there. Like, my uterus felt kind of, not really crampy. I just felt wrong down there. And I thought that, maybe it was a UTI because in the ER, I forgot to mention this, they said that I possibly had a UTI because there was some bacteria in my urine. And so I thought, well, maybe that's what it is. And they prescribed me antibiotics for it, but I didn't take them because, to be quite frank, I don't trust the emergency department to really prescribe me things, especially as a pregnant woman, because OB is such a little niche. It's such a specialty that you have to really know what you're talking about. And I just didn't trust them to prescribe me the right antibiotics. So I was planning to talk to my OB about it when I had my first official appointment. So anyways, that day, I just felt really yucky down there. And I was not sure, what I should do. I thought, it's probably a UTI, but then I'm I don't know. I just don't feel right down there. I just didn't feel right. So my boyfriend came home that night, and I talked to him about it, and I was like, I really think I should just go in. And so this time we didn't go to the emergency department. We went to OB triage, which is basically the emergency department for pregnant women. So I was supposed to have work the next day, but I called out because he got home at like 10 o'clock. And so I called out for work the next day because I didn't even want to deal with it. And I just had a really bad feeling like that. I was hoping that they were going to be like, oh, look, here's a heartbeat. Because by then I should have been almost 8 weeks. I should have been 8 weeks pregnant at that point. I should have been 8 weeks pregnant at that point. So we go to OB triage. They take me back, whatever. They do another HCG draw. Again, keep in mind, this entire time I've been having brown spotting. That day I've been having what now looking back probably was cramps, but it didn't really feel like cramps. It just felt like discomfort down there, but not like cramps, just like discomfort. I think that my body was starting to miscarry. So they do my HCG draw. I tell them what's going on. I tell them my history, everything, which they have it in my chart. And they do a vaginal ultrasound. And during the vaginal ultrasound, they can't find a yolk sac, which is very concerning because that means that my baby isn't growing, because it's been over a week since the last visit that I had at the emergency department, and they should have seen something more. It was also concerning because the embryonic sac, which is the sac that holds everything, holds the baby, was misshapen. On top of the brown spotting, my cervix was bleeding, but it was still closed, and all these things were just concerning. That it just wasn't right. The ultrasound wasn't right. What was going on with my body wasn't right. The way that I felt wasn't right. So I'm waiting there. I waited for quite a while in the emergency room. So finally the doctors come and they tell me that my HCG has actually decreased. It was 4,000 and now it's less than 2,000. And they diagnosed me with a miscarriage, and they give me my options as far as, spontaneously miscarrying or taking medication. And I call my boyfriend. I'm crying, obviously, just telling him about the options. And obviously he's not allowed back in the room with me because of everything that's going on in the world. So I have to tell him over the phone, which is just horrible. We decide to take the medication. I take it, and off we are. We come home. He called out of work the next day just to be with me, and obviously I didn't want to be alone that day, and he didn't want me to be alone that day. So I wait until about 6 a.m. to go to sleep so I can tell my mom right away. I wanted to tell her right away. I wanted everybody to know right away because I didn't want to have to deal with it the next day. I knew the next day was going to be hard enough emotionally, on top of having to tell people, hey, like, your grandchild actually isn't going to work out. Like, your first great grandbaby isn't going to work out. I'm sorry about that. Which I have nothing to be sorry about. Things like this just happen, but I am sorry, So the next day, I wake up at about 9 or 10 in the morning, and I feel like shit. Like, I can't walk. I'm so freaking dizzy. I'm hot. I want to throw up. I can't throw up because I can't stand up or sit up because I'm so dizzy. And like the way that they teach you about miscarriage in the hospital is like bleeding. Obviously, bleeding is the biggest risk of miscarriage. So I'm like, I'm freaking bleeding out. I'm pretty sure I'm bleeding out internally, even though I wasn't having really any blood coming out. I was like, I'm bleeding out internally. I'm pretty sure my tube popped and I just have a painless ectopic pregnancy, and I'm dying right now. So I tell Ethan, call the hospital, get some information, just ask them if this is normal. That's all I need to know. Is this normal? So he calls the hospital, and he calls the OB triage. 3 times, and each time they give him the runaround and they send him to the same number 3 times, and it's a disconnected phone number. So I'm freaking out. He's trying to get some information, and it was just super frustrating. So on the 4th time that he called, as the secretary is answering the phone, he can hear her saying, "Oh, these people are bugging. I don't know why they keep calling me," which pisses him off, obviously. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I need to figure something out. So I end up texting one of the doctors that I know and just being like, "Hey, I took this medication. I'm having a miscarriage. Is what I'm feeling normal?" She tells me it's normal. If it persists, then, then go back, whatever. It gives me all the information. I'm like, okay, cool. Meanwhile, Ethan still hasn't gotten any information on what's going on, and I feel like I'm freaking dying. The way that they handled that situation was completely unprofessional. This is already a horrible experience. I know that as a healthcare professional and a healthcare worker, you kind of get desensitized to these things, but if you're going to work in this field, you have to understand that you have to be empathetic towards people. And that was one of my biggest complaints with this experience was, 1, that phone call, 2, lack of empathy from the staff. They were all just kind of like, this happens all the time, which is comforting in a way for me, because it is comforting knowing that sometimes these things just happen. I'm not at a higher risk, but it's also, like, it happens all the time. It's no big deal. It's a big deal for me, and it's a big deal for my family. So I didn't like that. I also didn't like the lack of education on the medication that they were giving me. I didn't know that. All they said was I was going to feel nauseous. I did not feel nauseous. I felt like I was dying. And I know that that's like not an uncommon symptom, because I talked to other women that have taken this medication too. Another thing that really pissed me off was the fact that they didn't tell me it was a pro-choice pill, if you will. I wouldn't have taken it had I known that. I would have just waited a little bit longer and spontaneously, miscarried, which also really sucks, because it sucks like waiting to have a miscarriage because of work. I don't know at what point I'm going to miscarry. I already called out once. Am I going to have to call out again? Am I going to have to call out again? How many times am I going to have to call out? And it sucks that you even have to think about those things when you're going through something like this. All that aside, I'm so thankful that I have my family, because, my boyfriend the next day stayed with me and was just there with me. And he was there with me whenever I actually had my mini birth and the little sac came out, and it was a horrible experience that I didn't realize was again, lack of education. Nobody told me that I was going to literally have a mini birth and push out a mini sac into the toilet. That should be something that they tell you. It's not just a heavy period. You're giving a little birth. So grateful that he was there with me, and he was willing to call out, and I'm grateful too that we are stable enough and have careers that we can do that and we can afford to do that. And so I had Tuesday off. I called out on Wednesday, had Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, and then I called out on Sunday. So Wednesday was the day that my boyfriend stayed home with me. And then Thursday, my mom and my little sister came over, and just we watched Soul, and that was the day that I took the second medication, which made me cramp up really bad. So I'm glad that they were here to just be here with me. That's all you have to do sometimes, is just be there, and just hung out with me and just took care of me and just was there for me. And I'm just so grateful that I do have this support system, and I have this family, and I have people that love me and are understanding and are just there for me and don't make me feel guilty or anything. And so after this experience, I was really angry with God. I had sworn him off. I was like, screw you, bro, because the thing about this baby that was the hardest for me to understand was the fact that it was going to be an October baby, and he was going to be an October baby. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, believed that this was going to be a boy. And I know that he was going to be an October baby. And that's really hurtful for me and Ethan because we love Halloween. Halloween is our favorite holiday. So we were really looking forward to having an October baby. And I just thought that it was really hateful of God to basically, if you're going to have us go through something like this, then have it be a January, February, March, April, any other month, but it had to be a Halloween baby. So I was really, really angry with God for taking my son away from me. And I know that it was a boy. I know that it was my son and still is my son. And I was angry at him and I had sworn him off. I had sworn off my angels. I was like, screw you guys. And the way that me and my angels and that God communicate amongst other ways is numbers. And before and after, immediately before and immediately after this situation had happened, I kept seeing 333 on the clock, and every time I was like, screw you, I don't care. And then I started seeing 1111, 333, and I'm like, no, I'm done with you guys. And kept persisting until finally one night I was having a hard time sleeping and I saw 2222 because I have my phone on military time, and I saw 2222 on my phone, and I was like, fine, I'm gonna look it up, I'm gonna see what you have to say to me. And it was basically just saying, keep the faith, like we're here for you. And then shortly after that, again, I was having a hard time sleeping and I saw 0000, and I was like, okay. So, and that was basically just saying that your life is coming full circle, like everything is going to work out. And I was like, fine, you're putting an effort in to have a relationship with me. I'm willing to put an effort to have a relationship with you. And because that was one of the things I had told him too, like, I'm always the one that's praying to you. How about you come to me this time and you tell me that you're listening to me? And sure as hell he did. I can say that this whole experience has taught me a number of things, one of which being who is truly there for me, who truly loves me, and who is truly supportive of me. And not even just through the miscarriage portion of things, but through the entire pregnancy portion. I had people that were very supportive, very loving, were checking up on me, were telling me congratulations. And then I had other people who were just almost hateful towards me and didn't care. And I'm glad that I went through this experience so that way now with my future baby, I can protect them from people like that. This has also made my faith in God grow so much more and just really have so much more love and respect for God and my angels and so much more faith. And I think that that's another reason that I had to go through this, was to grow in my faith with God. I have been trying to reconnect with God and have even a stronger relationship with Him for quite some time now. And this has really helped me to strengthen that relationship with Him. And although at the time I was angry and I still am very sad, I know that everything happens for a reason. And I have faith that my future pregnancy and our future pregnancy will be safe and will be strong and will be healthy. And if it's not, I can say that I truly do trust in what the plan is for me. And if that is something that I have to go through and that we have to go through again, then that is what has to happen for whatever reason. The hardest part about this entire experience was, one, going through the ups and downs of being hopeful, being negative, knowing that something's wrong, hoping that it's not, just the unknown and just the emotional stress of not knowing what's going to happen. Another thing that was really hard was telling people that I had miscarried. I had told my entire work, all of my coworkers knew because I had to for baby safety. And also telling my family is very, very hard, and just talking about it is hard. It's very, very sad. But in the future, I will still tell everybody. I will still tell my coworkers. I will still tell my family, because at the end of the day, it doesn't make it any easier. Like, if I hid that I was pregnant from people and then had a miscarriage, all it's going to do is make it harder, because nobody's going to understand why I'm sad. Nobody's going to understand what I'm feeling. And it's better to tell people and have that support, if you're lucky and blessed enough to have that support, than to just hide it and go through these things alone. So in the future, I will not do anything different. There are a few people that I'm choosing not to give this information to in the future with our next child. But aside from that, I am going to do everything pretty much the same. Another thing that was really difficult for me was receiving pregnancy packages after miscarrying, like a pregnancy pillow, for example. I knew that it was coming, and it was sad getting it and knowing that I wasn't going to need it anymore, at least for that time. And especially at that time, you're going through it at that time. I am not glad that this happened. I wish that things would have worked out differently, but I do know that everything happens for a reason. I have faith in God. I have faith that in His plan for me. I know that He wants me to be happy. And if anything, this experience has just made me so much more grateful for everything that I have, so much more thankful for the people that I have, and just has really kind of lit a fire under my ass to make me want to be healthier, to make me want to be more spiritual. And my next video is going to be talking about what I'm doing right now to prepare my body, my mind, my spirit, my emotions, everything to have a baby and to support a baby fully, because now Ethan and I definitely are going to be trying again. We definitely want kids now, and we are definitely going to be pursuing that for us. So I know this wasn't really even necessarily like a story time. I kind of went off and started ranting about like lessons that I learned and stuff, but I think that's important to talk about. And that's really all I have to say for this video. I think I'm pretty much done here. Next video is going to be about me preparing my body for a baby. And if you're interested in that, check it out. If you're not interested in it, don't check it out, or check it out anyways and hate watch. And I think that's about it for me. Alrighty.